Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you to those of you that are joining us live and those of you that will be with us later on at a recorded version of this session. As you know, we're here today to talk about the Big Mill Farm and Hopkins Road improvements, a project by the North Carolina Department of Transportation in Forsyth County. If you live in or around or work in this area, you've likely been hearing about this project for some time. By way of a little bit of background and overview, this project has been in the works since around 2008 when the NCDOT offered their first feasibility study regarding this project. Since then, there have been a number of iterations of the project and a number of public input meetings and informational sessions. And now we're at the final stages of the development and design process, and we're moving into what we call the acquisition and then construction phases of this project. If we can, let's begin by just looking at the project from an overall point of view and seeing what it looks like. And it's basically a widening and an extension of Hopkins Road and Big Mill Farm Road from the Harmon Creek Road intersection all the way up to North Carolina 66. In addition, with the intersection of Business 40 and US 421, there is also going to be a new widened roadway, a new 4-lane roadway with a median. Now, along Big Mill Farm and Hopkins roads, most of that will be a mixture of 2-lane and 4-lane roadway, but there will be a new median installed for the entire length, along with a bike lane and pedestrian lane. And so, naturally, there will be impacts to landowners. Why is that? Well, in order to take care of and initiate a project of this size and this scope, the DOT will need to acquire property from landowners. The budget for this project in general is right around $65 million, and about almost $12 million of that have been allocated to right-of-way acquisition. That means the acquisition of new property from existing landowners along the project path in order for the NCDOT to effectuate the construction of this new roadway and new construction. So what does that mean for you as a landowner? Well, essentially, the NCDOT is going to use the power of eminent domain to acquire private property for a public purpose. And that's exactly what that word means. It's the government's ability to take a private landowner's property in order to benefit the public as a whole. Generally speaking, on a project like this, there's very little doubt that this meets the public purpose requirement. This is for the public to travel on Big Mill Farm, Hopkins roads, and US 421. And because of that, the public need is to alleviate congestion, to improve safety. And so the government will likely have the authority and the ability and the right to take that property. But you as landowners, potential landowners along this route, you also have rights. And among the most important rights that you have as a landowner is the right to what we call just compensation. That simply means that while the government may have the ability to take your property, they must also fairly and adequately compensate you for what they're going to take. And that doesn't always just mean the value of the dirt or of the land that they're taking, but also any damages that you may have to the remainder of your property. And those can be complicated, but that's why we're here. The process works, generally speaking, by here in the near future. If you haven't been contacted already, you can look for contact from either the North Carolina Department of Transportation or a third-party right-of-way agent that they may hire to reach out to you with what we call an initial offer, basically coming to you to say, hey, we're looking to take this property from you. Here's what we're going to offer you, and here's why. Now, that can be an intimidating phone call, or that can be an intimidating or scary visit, because the people that bring you that offer have experience in eminent domain cases. Those right-of-way agents or the appraisers that they may hire to help develop their initial offer to you do this all the time. They are experienced and well-versed in eminent domain cases. And for the most part, generally speaking, landowners on a project like this may be the only time that you ever hear the word eminent domain, much less be involved in a case like this. And so if you don't have the experience, if you don't have multiple commercial properties or multiple residential properties that may give you the opportunity to be involved in a case like this, then you won't know the terminology they're speaking, and you won't know why they're offering you what they're offering you. But that's where firms like ours come in. We again do this all the time. At Bell Carrington, we are a regional-based eminent domain firm, and we represent landowners across North Carolina in cases like this. And if you hire someone like us, you can rest assured knowing that you also have some experience on your side, experience to help you look at the offer, to evaluate the potential damages to your property, and then to develop counter offers and to negotiate with the department when it comes to the damages to your property. So again, this project is moving toward right-of-way acquisition stages. I know it's been a long time coming, and as with many governmental projects, there have been delays along the way. Originally, right-of-way was slated to begin in the summer of 2022. Some of you may have already heard from right-of-way agents, but if you haven't, I expect for you to start hearing from them soon. This is a major project with a $65 million budget, nearly $12 million attributed to right-of-way acquisition. You know that this project has major impacts to lots of landowners, both residential and commercial properties along Big Mill Farm, along Hopkins Road, and certainly at the intersection of US 421 and Big Mill Farm Road. The median in this case is a major concern to me because of the way that it may impact access. For instance, if you can make a left turn into a business now, there's a chance that you may have to go northbound or southbound some distance before making a U-turn to get back to that property. All of those things are potential damages that we need to consider when looking at your particular property on a case like this. Finally, let me touch on attorney's fees. I know that that's often a question and concern for landowners in cases like this. Generally speaking, and I can tell you that within Bell Carrington on eminent domain cases, two things are for sure. The first is that the initial consultation is always free of charge. Myself and my team, we stand ready to talk to you about your property to find out, number one, if you're impacted, and if you are, how we may be able to help you. Feel free to call us. Feel free to send me an email. Our information will be over in the chat box, and you can do that at any time. We're passionate about helping landowners in cases like this, and so don't be scared to reach out directly. In fact, it's oftentimes much more beneficial for us to be able to pull up your property individually and have that conversation with you about the actual impacts to you and your property, as opposed to speaking in generalities about the project as a whole. And the second is that we operate on a contingency fee basis, and basically that means there are no upfront fees, no out-of-pocket fees. Our fee will be a percentage of the recovery that we're able to get for you at the end of the day, at the end of the case, whether that's through a settlement or ultimately through a verdict at jury trial. But whatever the outcome is the case, is our fee is a percentage of that. I can talk to you again more directly, individually, about what that percentage and what that fee looks like. But there will be no out-of-pocket, no upfront cost for any clients at Bell Carrington in eminent domain matters. I see that we have a few joining us here live. If you have any general questions or questions that you'd like to ask in the chat box, please feel free to enter those now. If not, I know sometimes folks are uncomfortable asking questions in a forum like this, and frankly, it can be more difficult for me to give effective answers in a public forum. But again, you see our phone number there on the side. I will enter my email address here now. Don't be scared to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to discuss any questions that you may have and to pull up some proprietary software that we've developed within Bell Carrington that will allow me to show the impacts to your property real time while we are on the phone. Not seeing any questions come in, we will go ahead and end our live for the evening. But I want to thank those of you that have joined us here live. I hope that the information we've provided is somewhat beneficial. Feel free to reach out. And for those of you that are watching later, same to you. You'll also see our phone number and email address in the chat box. And I look forward to hearing from each of you. Thank you again for reaching out, and thank you for your time.